I'm John Fensterwald.
And I'm Kathy Barron. Together we write and edit toped.org, a forum on California education policy.
Join us while we interview interesting and important leaders in education. You'll learn a lot in 10 minutes or less. Hi, I'm John Fensterwald, and we're fortunate today to have with us James Willcox, the CEO of Aspire Public Schools, which is the largest charter management organization in California with 34 schools statewide, and it's also the highest performing large system in California, serving 2/3 or more students in poverty. And we're here to talk about a subject very much in the news, and that is teacher evaluations and principal evaluations. So James, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we're here actually to talk about the College Ready Promise, which is a 7-year, $60 million grant from the Gates Foundations to fund teacher and principal evaluations for 4 charter organizations, of which Aspire is one. The others are the Alliance for College Ready Public Schools, Green Dot Public Schools, and Partnership to Uplift Communities. So James, tell us, what is the partnership and where are you in the process?
The College Ready Promise is a collaboration across 4 different CMOs, as you said, all of which are based in Los Angeles except for Aspire, who is statewide. We're all focused on the same thing, which is making sure that all of our students graduate from our high schools ready to pursue a college degree and ultimately earn that college degree. And the path that we're pursuing is a partnership of 4 different organizations, is one that goes directly to the most important thing, which is effective instruction and having high quality instruction in every classroom every day. So that's ultimately what our aim is, for the ultimate goal of making sure our kids are college ready when they graduate from high school.
So there's a relationship that you see between preparing your students for college and an effective teacher is reflected in these evaluations that you've developed?
There definitely is. It's more than a relationship. We think it is the thing. It's the most important thing, and all things that we do as organizations, we believe, should be geared towards making sure that our teachers have the opportunity, the resources, the support to be the best teacher they can be, because that's what our kids need to make sure that they're ready to pursue a college degree.
So tell us about this evaluation process, how you developed it, whether teachers were involved, and where you are in terms of implementing it.
And the most important thing about the College Ready Promise is actually not the evaluation, it's the support of our teachers. Obviously, to give great support, you have to be able to understand and use common language to understand across all the schools where teachers are in that process, from being a novice teacher to being a highly effective teacher. And so to do that, we have a rubric that we've developed with our teachers and in partnership with our teacher based in research, to make sure that we're codifying what it means to and what it is to when we say good teaching. What does that look like? What does that experience look like in the classroom, both from the student's perspective as well as the teacher's perspective? And one of the proudest accomplishments, I think one of the accomplishments we're most proud of as a partnership, is that we think we've arrived at a really robust set of a framework and a rubric that could be used in lots and lots of places that can really start to put some language around what it means, what we mean when we say you're a great teacher and this is great instruction.
So give us an example of what is in that rubric.
The rubric contains a lot of different domains. I mean, I would start from the basics of planning for your lesson, getting ready to ask great questions of your students in advance of actually asking them, thinking deeply about the kind of cognitive engagement you want to have with your kids and the kind of discourse you want to have in the course of achieving a very specific objective. So there are things that are domains that start from planning and go all the way through to how are you partnering with the community and the families for the experience that student needs to have to be ready for college when they ultimately graduate from high school. And so in between, you have relationships and domains around how you work with your peers. You have a domain around the results you're actually achieving in the classroom. You have a really very serious and important domain, like the others, around the environment within the classroom from the moment students walk through the door to the moment they leave.
So these are the so-called multiple measures on which sound evaluations are based. So what are these measures and what are the weights that you're giving to them?
I would say the measures are going to be multiple measures. We have formal observations of our teachers in action, and the formal observation is not walk into a classroom and walk out. It's actually a week-long process of a formal observation that starts with planning a lesson and evaluating the planning process and going through all the things I just mentioned. The middle of that process actually being in a classroom, and the end of that process reviewing both self-reflection on the teacher's part as well as the principal deeply preparing for the act of observing and deeply debriefing and deconstructing what he or she saw in that classroom and the evidence so that it can be very explainable using a very common and understood set of terms and set of goals. So that's one.
Yeah.
Obviously, student achievement is a big weighting, and we will work and play with where these weightings, how these weightings ultimately play out. But there's a substantial portion of the evaluation that will be related to student growth. So not how you performed on this test or that test, not whether you moved from one and basic level of proficiency to proficiency. It's about growth, and we're using a student growth percentile. And so for most folks like me who didn't really understand all the different value-added measures that people have out there, student growth percentile our teachers felt was the clearest, the simplest to understand, and something that could actually help them in their classroom. And effectively what it is all students in the data set that we have that started at the same point. How far did your students move compared to all other students like them in the course of a year?
Is it all based on CST, or are there other measures?
On the student growth potential today, it is based on CST, and there's clearly some problems with just having CST. And so we are working with our teachers and our team and our partners in the College Ready Promise to figure out how do we deal with non-tested subjects? How do we deal with the nuances that CST is not going to capture?
Right.
And we will figure those out in collaboration with our teachers, and sure, there's not going to be a one-size-fits-all for all of our teachers because the CST doesn't cover all things.
So what I had seen was basically 40%, and maybe again the percentages will vary over as you work this out.
Yep.
40% for evaluations, 40% for student growth, and 20% for sort of student surveys, peer surveys, family surveys. Is that right?
That's roughly it, and we will we'll tweak it as we go, and we'll have we'll potentially have different measures as we work through these issues like non-tested grades and non-tested subjects, et cetera. But those are the big buckets of things and how we're working with them, and we feel like we can have a really good picture based on what's actually happening in the classroom with kids, not just once, but more than once, and formal observations and other things that are going to, we think, have a pretty complete picture of how our teachers are doing and what support they need to get better.
Well, finally, I guess here's the big question: how can you sustain this in a time of budget cuts? And I guess this is not limited to just the 4 charters. Gates has funded other cities as well in this project, and they're facing similar pressures.
It's very true. So we are, as you said, John, one of 4 sites. There's 3 other districts. We're the only site, if you will, the College Ready Promise this partnership in California. And California is in some pretty tough times, as are other states. I would argue that other states are probably not suffering as much as California is, and we started low and we've fallen really, really far. It is not just the question, it's the $60 million question, and how will we keep this going? I think the most important thing to remember on that front is that with the will to keep this going and with the results that we believe are possible, we think that we can figure this out. That said, it's going to be a really tough challenge. A lot of the opportunities districts, I think our district partners would say that they had to sustain this work. They've used those opportunities to just sustain what they had.
Right.
So it's a tough time for schools in general across the country. I think it's going to be tough to sustain this work, but I do think if we succeed, and I think we will, that there will be a lot of momentum around what it takes to really make sure our kids are ready for college when they graduate from schools, and hopefully as a country, as a state, as a series of nonprofits, we can figure that out.
Well, thank you, James, for coming and speaking. Good luck with the College Ready Promise. It's important not only to charters but to districts in California, and we look forward to hearing the results.
Thanks very much.
I'm John Fensterwald. Thank you, James. Thank you for watching.